Tashidile and a very good morning to all of you. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kunga Chindan. I'm handling as a deputy coordinator of the Nalanda courses, and I'll be moderating the first session of today's conference on neuroscience, Buddhist psychology, and cognitive science. So, first of all, it is my great pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Ajay Swaroop Mathurji, chairman of the Board of Management, Sri Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi, to accept our invitation and for taking out his valuable time to join with us today. And I would also like to welcome our director, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdula, to grace this session with his blessing. With this, I would like to welcome all of you ladies and gentlemen for today's session and would also like to thank each and every one of you fine people on behalf of Tibet House for such a wonderful audience. Now, I would like to introduce the theme for our first session of the day, which is cognition, mindfulness, and analytical meditation, for which I would like to invite our chairperson for the session, Professor Renuka Singh, Director of Jawaharlal Nehru University, Tushita Mahayana Meditation Center, New Delhi, and our respected guest speakers, Dr. Ravindra Nagendra ji, Associate Professor, Department of Neurophysiology, Center for Consciousness Studies, NIMHANS, Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh ji, Head of the Department of Buddhist Studies, Nava Nalanda Mahavira University, Nalanda, Venerable Geshe Thabgila, Director of Seraje Modern Education and Department and Residential Teacher of Seraje Monastery, Karnataka, to kindly come on stage and take their respective seats. So I would like to request all of you to please welcome our chairperson, Professor Renuka Singh ji, and our respected guest speakers with a big round of applause. Thank you so much. So before I request our chairperson, Professor Renuka Singh ji, to kindly proceed with the session, I would like to briefly introduce her with her astounding experiences and accomplishment. Professor Renuka Singh ji, retired, is a sociologist from the Center for the Study of Social System, School of Social Science, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She has been working in the field of gender studies, diaspora, and Buddhist studies for over 4 decades and traveled extensively delivering lectures at various seminars and universities abroad. She has been associated with Women's Studies Center, Delhi University, Center for Social Research, and was a research fellow at Center for Cross-Cultural Research on Women at Oxford University. She was also a senior UGC fellow and is currently the director of Tushita Mahayana Meditation Center, New Delhi, and the chairperson of Punjab Sahitya Sabha. She has authored and edited several articles and books that have been translated into many languages of the world. Some of the titles are The Womb of Mind, Woman Reborn, The Path to Tranquility, The Transformed Mind, Many Ways to Nirvana, The Path of the Buddha, Becoming Buddha, Dalai Lama's Little Book of Buddhism, and the Little Book of Mysticism, and also the Little Book of Encouragement. Now, without further ado, I would like to humbly request Professor Renuka Singh ji to kindly address the session. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Kunga Chodan, for the very nice introduction. Good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to congratulate Tibet House for organizing this conference on neuroscience, Buddhist psychology, and cognitive science. Under the able guidance of the director, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, Tibet House has on regular intervals brought academicians, clinicians, and Buddhist practitioners together for a dialogue that enhances our understanding of the nature of our mind and how we can improve our social and psychological well being. The theme of this session is cognition, mindfulness, and analytical meditation. We were going to have four speakers, but one of the speakers, Dr. Arvind Kumar Singh, is a bit ill disposed, so he's not here with us. Um, we are then going to have Dr. Ravindra Nagendra, Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh, and Venerable Geshe Thapke, who will make their respective presentations to enrich our knowledge in this field. I would like to say something very briefly about mindfulness because this is very close to my heart. I think probably we are familiar with the fact that there are four foundations of mindfulness. In other words, we have to calmly observe the qualities of our body, our feelings, our different mind states, and the reality patterns. In Buddhism, we often find that there is a repeated refrain that concerns contemplation of the relevant quality as it arises, as it ceases, both internally within oneself and externally in other persons and the world. We are also probably familiar with the fact that both Vipassana and shamatha are related to the concept of mindfulness. In recent years, mindfulness has become a popular idea, and a secular adaptation of it is being applied in many spheres, be it business, therapy, or Buddhist psychology, in terms of stress reduction and mindfulness based cognitive therapy. These take aspects of the full spectrum Buddhist mindfulness as a way to help people stand back from their thoughts and feelings so as to calmly observe them and not to be drawn into negative thought patterns. Here, the emphasis is on a non judgmental awareness of the present experiences and thoughts, which may also include a clear recollection of the past and of beneficial qualities and teachings. Thus, cultivating a discerning, though non blaming recognition of the difference between harmful and helpful states of mind gains significance. Here, I would like to quote Buddha, who commented, I quote, monks, this is the direct way for purification of beings, for ending grief and lamentation, for ending pain and unhappiness, for attaining understanding, and for realizing nirvana. And these are the four foundations of mindfulness. I'm sure the speakers are going to cover all these various aspects of mindfulness. A suffering and the round of rebirths are sustained by unwholesome forms of two aspects of the mind: the affective, to do with the emotions, and the cognitive, to do with how one sees and understands things. These are interrelated, for emotional turbulence makes it difficult to see things clearly, and confusion and deluded misperception feeds emotional turbulence. Thus, both affective and cognitive defilements must be overcome, respectively by meditative calm, that is shamatha, and insight meditation, that is vipassana. Working together, these bring about a state in which direct knowledge can arise in a calm, clear, and a peaceful mind. I would like to end this with a personal note. We have this photograph here, and I would like to share with you that it was in 1992 when I had gone up to interview His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala. I was invited to attend this Mind and Life conference. I think this was probably the third one at that time. on sleeping, dreaming, and dying. And that's where I met Professor Varela, the philosopher Charles Taylor, and the psychoanalyst Joyce McDougall. Um, I would like to point out, and I want to emphasize this, that there were only two Indians in that conference, in that gathering, but not a single scientist. I was there as an observer, and so I felt that Indians had been excluded from this mind and life dialogue. And I think it is over here that Tibet House has contributed greatly. They have brought in Indians, into this dialogue. And I congratulate them and thank them for it. So I would like to invite the first speaker, Dr. Ravindra Nagendra. He is going to speak on exploring neurocognitive aspects of mindfulness meditation.
Namaste once again. So I bring the greetings from Center for Consciousness Studies, which is from National Institute for Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore. All of you know that NIMHANS is the most pioneer institute of our country for neuroscience, psychology, and mental health. In fact, our institute is the leader of national mental health programs for the government of India. So whatever the national mental health programs that probably you come across, so it is all through our colleagues that they have been working with. So NIMHANS has a legacy to do to explore meditation studies from, say, late 1970s. The founder of our department, Dr. Desiraju, sir, was a very great name in the field of neuroscience of those times. Maybe in the mid 1980s, Indian Council of Medical Research granted a fund Dr. Desiraju on the project consciousness in those times. Though there were a lot of work for the best technology that was available of those times, but subsequently, because of his untimely demise in 1993, I think. So it was only subsequently, probably from last, say, 10, 15 years, again, we have resumed back the meditation work to understand both the basic concepts of meditation, application of meditation, and also into the mental health at NIMHANS, where Dr. Bindu Kutti, she heads the Department of Center for Consciousness Studies. So almost 10, 15 years of our work has resulted in creation of this center from last 3 years, and but it's just a continuation of the same work, but only a separate identification called as Center for Consciousness Studies has been in place, where, as I mentioned, that we are working on meditation, all schools of meditation, because one of the advantage, right, what we have in India is we have accessible to different schools of philosophy and its practices. That's the advantage that we have. So we are exploring the different schools of meditation, try to understand, is there a differences, is there a similarities, right? So but we don't have any answer at this point of time, we are just exploring. And also, because ours is a mental health institute, so we have the liberty and also an advantage of having a spectrum of neuropsychiatric disorder patients, and putting these from the healthcare perspective, especially from the mental healthcare perspective. So two important things that we are actually looking is from the adolescent depression perspective, because as morning, it was said that depression is really raising. How actually these things can bring about, especially with adolescent depression, and also certain other, the common clinical conditions like anxiety, right? And we are also exploring in that direction. Not only that, not only about meditation, other core area which we are working is to explore the meditative brain when it is sleeping. So we have both meditation from the waking brain perspective, and also try to understand the effect of meditation when a meditator is sleeping. So is there a difference in the brain, right, or the sleep architecture of a person who meditates? So that is the, I'm just wanted to give you the panorama of the spectrum of work that we are exploring in the Center for Consciousness Studies. So what I would like to do at this point of time is to go through a journey, just as a review of, like a review of literature, that how actually this mindfulness meditation, right, can bring about certain changes in the brain, right, of the different components of, say, mindfulness, as the uh, chairperson has put just now. So, as I told, we know that meditation is a fabric of our culture. Even the Harappa Mohenjo-daro has the, you um, they've got this meditation, the pictures over there. Until this time, it has been the part and parcel of our culture. The only thing is, at this point of time, is the acceptability in the society is more because the offshoots of benefits of these things is more for the day-to-day relevance, right? So it can be for the health and well-being. So that's the reason why there is an acceptability in the society, in the general population. But of course, the goal of meditation is to reach or to have the, say, to experience the state of a pure awareness or a Buddhahood. There is no doubt about that. But it's not the cup of, it's not the cup of everybody. But in the journey, right? So we get a lot of offshoots benefits. So now what is happening in the field is this offshoot benefits has been taken as a separate branch by itself, right? And more work has also been, okay, done in that particular direction. Now, so in a very general framework, what actually is a meditation? So they say meditation is a practices, a set of practices where your attention, your emotion, and the awareness of your cognitive and the emotion, right, is enhanced, and where you have a very intense sensory, emotional, and cognitive experience, capacity to experience these things, sensitivity to experience these things, not only experiencing, even to modulate these things, right, has also been trained. Now, so there are, in any meditation practices, they say there are four different components. There should be a form. A form can be like, for anything, a form or an object. Now, if you take, say, mindfulness meditation, one of the important object in which a person to start doing meditation is the focusing on the breath. That in a vipassana tradition, that is an object for us at this point of time, right? And where we start focusing on the breath. Not only on the focusing of the breath, but there is a difference between the normal breathing and while breathing during meditation, is that we apply a particular attitude, right, when we are meditating. So we have an object in vipassana tradition is breath, and while breathing, okay, we have a particular stance on attitude of our mind, right? And also, so these two plays a very, very what the important role. Now, what is the attitude in which uh, a person has to bear in mind when he is meditating? So, whenever we are meditating, thoughts arises spontaneously. At this point of time in neuroscience, it is called as resting state cognition. So it is not about you are responding and reacting to any specific stimuli that is coming up, right? Even you are uh, not allowing any stimuli to come in, but still inherently in mind itself, the a lot of inputs are coming, right? So whatever the thoughts that are emerging, for those particular thought, okay, you should have a behavior that you are not supposed to react to that particular thought, and you should be like a third person perspective. I have to just observe. The thought comes and thought goes, thought comes and thought goes. So we have a object, we have a particular attitude and a behavior a person has to uh, should be there while when he is meditating. Now, so this is in brief. So all of us, we know about the initial stages of, say, any of these meditation practices. Now, in the literature, when a person is meditating with this particular stance for a long period of time, he developed certain cognitive and emotional capabilities, and certain these capabilities will be persisting in an individual whether the person is meditating or also not. So there are two important things that we have to understand. One is called a state characteristics, another is called as a trait characteristic. What do you mean by state characteristic? State characteristic is those particular thing or where a person experiences or a person uh, have a stance during meditation. But with the regular practice, even a person is not meditating also, there will be a remnant of meditation in his cognition and emotion and his behavior. That is also reflected. That is called as trait characteristics. So, as I was telling in the morning, both understanding the psychology from the Buddhist perspective and also from the neuroscience perspective, they contribute to each other. So, in the sense, you have a trait characteristic that is developed. So the question was asked whether this trait characteristic that is developed by a meditator, say a meditator has been practicing, say, for 10-15 years, he has developed certain characteristics. Is it a static one or is it a dynamic one? If a person stops meditating, say, after 10 years, all these characters, will it gradually come down, or will it be the way it is where it was was acquired from last, say, 10 years? So earlier it was thought that okay, this trait characteristic is a static, but now with a lot of work it has been demonstrated, no, it is more dynamic in nature. It is not static in nature. So this is one say good understanding between the dialogues between neuroscience and also the Buddhist psychology. No, so trait characteristic is not static; it is more and more dynamic. Then the other thing is that, so when we say that, what is the one underlying principle in any of this meditation practice from the cognitive perspective? The cognitive perspective is that is a person's mental capacity to retain, say, one particular object in cognition. Otherwise, we know that in our experience, the object in our cognition, it shifts from one object to another object spontaneously. That we call it as resting state cognition or the mind wandering, whatever it shifts. But in due practice, what happens, right? We develop a capacity to keep one particular object, right, in our cognition. Not only that, most important is to keep whenever the object, a single object is kept, okay, in focus in our cognition. At this point of time also, as a meditator, you should also keep what is the goal and motivation and the ethical values, right, also in his cognitive, say, in his mind. So whenever person is focusing on breath, it's not only on the focusing on the breath as such, but at the same time the context in which a person is meditating, it also be kept in mind. So these two are the development, from the trying to understand from neuroscience perspective, the meditation is also improving. Earlier we are focused only on breath, 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 breath. No, but apart from breath, yes, what is the goal of a meditation practitioner? So that is also plays a very, very, that important role. So with this context, so in any the basic component of all these say mindfulness practices is three important things. Number one, we'll have an attention regulation, right? So it can be, so generally, as I told you, in vipassana it is breath, it's breath focused, and also to keep the goal in which why the person is meditating. Next important is about the body awareness, right? So many thoughts, okay, and the sensation that arises, these are the spontaneous sensation, that are arising from the signal that is coming from the body. So it's called embodied cognition. It is there. We may feel pleasure, we may feel painful, pressure, touch. So many things will be coming, right? So we should have that body awareness. These two, attention and also with that of the body awareness, when a person is in a particular stance, what is the psychological stand? Whatever the thoughts or the sensation that is arising, let it come and let it go. And as an individual, I am not reacting to that, right? And I'm observing as a third person perspective. This will bring about a skill to regulate a person's emotion. So there will be an emotional regulation. And of course, the fourth component will be completely into a spiritual thing about the purpose of life, why actually a person is meditating, right? So that plays a very, very important role. Now, from neuroscience perspective, we'll try to understand only the first three things. One is the attention regulation. As I told you that, right, whenever we start focusing on one particular object, breath in vipassana, my mind wanders here and there everywhere. Suddenly I recognize, no, my mind is wandering. Now I have to focus on my breath. I'll get my mind back to the breath, and maybe a couple of minutes on the breath, immediately without my knowledge, mind goes everywhere. So this on and off of the thing that is going on, mind wandering, focusing, mind wandering, focusing, right, is the first initial step that happens. Now gradually with meditation, what is going to happen is, the first thing is we will be in a position to recognize that my mind has started wandering. I have to get back. It is not that I lost in the mind wandering. Maybe sometime I recognize, okay, my mind is wandering and I have to get back. So the sensitivity of an individual to recognize that my mind is wandering and get back to the focus plays a very, very important role in the first step, right, in any of this, in the attention regulation. So there is one important, okay, so we need we should have a focus, right? Whenever we are focusing, so automatically there will be mind wandering, and we become aware of the mind wandering again, right? We shift back to the focus. So there are certain areas in the brain that are involved with this particular process. One important thing area is called as DMN, that is called default mode of network. So which is present, okay, it's a vast network in the brain, and it is always, it is tonically active. Because of that, because that is tonically active, our mind is always will be, in the wandering. It's called a resting state cognition. So it will be uh, wandering, everywhere. Now whenever we recognize, no, my mind is wandering and I have to bring back my attention back, right? So that is called a salience network. So we have two different networks. One is default network and the salience network. Default network, it is, so it allows mind to wander, and salience, immediately I recognize, no, it is wandering, I'll get back. So my salience network will become active. It recognizes and it will shift back. And what is the goal? Goal is to focus on the breath. So when my goal is focus on the breath, right, so we have an executive functional executive network that will help me to focus my mind back to my breath. So this aspect, which regulation that is happening, right, in the brain of the different areas, plays a very, very important role. Now, with this particular training, what is happening? The interaction between, or the anti-correlation, which is called as, that is, whenever the attention is increasing, my DMN activity is going down. Whenever my attention is not there, my mind wandering will increase. Now this, the relationship between these two, suppose I'm focusing, my mind should not wander. It means that what, my DMN activity should be always less. My capacity to focus on breath or whatever the object should increase. Now this plays a very important role, not only for the meditation practices, but nowadays we have that emerging evidences even for certain neuropsychiatric conditions also. So what is the content that is present in one's mind when the person is in mind wandering plays a very important role, whether the person is shifting towards the risky side or towards the meditation side. Say simple example, say for example, person who is susceptible to be depressed is called as a rumination. Why rumination? Rumination is that where he always thinks about negative, right? At the same time, he's in a position to know that okay, he's always thinking about the negative. He's ruminating, and one fine day, this rumination brings about a depression symptoms in that particular individual. Now, at this point of time, what is happening to him is that, right, that his the executive network, right, is not been functioning properly. Now when we give, say, this particular training to him of, for an individual, right, to start his attention regulation as a simple practice with meditation, we slowly enhance the capacity of his executive network also, or the salience network also. So when both the salience network and the executive network, when their capacity is increased, a person will be in a position to recognize, no, my ruminating thought has started. Now I have to start bring, I have to reduce my rumination. So executive control. So a person will develop a skill, right, to manage this particular thought. So this is in brief about one simple step in meditation, that is about the attention regulation, where we have different component or different networks that plays a very, very important role. The other important thing, okay, that happens is about the emotion. Now in this emotion, we have one particular area, what is called as anterior cingulate in the, where the viscera that is present. What do you mean by viscera? Viscera is, say, my heart and my respiration or my gut, everything is mapped in the brain. So you take any organs in the periphery, it has a mapping in the brain. So similarly, we have a map for our viscera also. Now this anterior cingulate plays a very important role in recognize in emotion, right? So nowadays the emerging thing is that how in different states of cognition and emotion, the information from the viscera is getting mapped in the brain. If I'm angry, the mapping will be different. If I'm happy, the mapping will be different, right? If I'm ruminating, the mapping will be different. So one particular area in the brain where these maps, it is called as anterior cingulate. So this anterior cingulate and the frontal cortex that I told you about, the executive network, so they should go hand in hand. So when anterior cingulate and my executive network, they start working in synchrony with each other, my the medial prefrontal cortex is like a CEO, right? He is a person who controls, and he should be very strong. So when my medial prefrontal cortex, it becomes very strong, right, and that particular, and it will regulate, right, all these activities, including that of an anterior cingulate cortex. So when anterior cingulate cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex, right, when they with sync with each other, now it will bring about the whole lot of changes in the body. Now, what is that whole lot of changes that comes in the body? So, as we know that there is a shift of our autonomic system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Now, what do you mean by parasympathetic? Parasympathetic is something which is where a person will be very calm, he will be very cool, right? And it is more anabolic in nature, where his heart rate comes down, blood pressure is coming down, there will be a good hormonal balance with all the hormones and all those things. What is sympathetic? Sympathetic something when a person faces this stress, so his heart rate is increased, blood pressure is increased, sugar levels are increased, stress hormones are increased, right? Any challenges, it can be external challenge or internal challenge. So when my physiological system has faced the challenge, it has to face the challenge, right? To face the challenge, all this system comes into picture. So with meditation practice, in the initial days, though we are trying to focus um, on breath, it is quite challenging for that particular individual because he's first introduced to meditation. Definitely there is an increase in his sympathetic, but with the practice, when his different networks which I told you, and the anterior cingulate and prefrontal cortex, they all sync with each other, right? His parasympathetic system means, now what is happening, whatever that is happening in my brain, right, that is exerting its good influence on my periphery also, right? So it's on all my other, let's say, organ system. Now, so the person feels very calm, very cool, and very happy, and it takes some time. So therefore, so we have something called as short term benefits, a medium term, and a long term benefits of all this meditation practices. So definitely in the initial stages, definitely it will be more challenging, more resistance will be there, but with the practice, when these networks becomes more and more efficient, it will be more and more easy. So changes in this network that happens with meditation practice, right, in the uh, terminology, it is called as neural plasticity changes that can happen. Now, so as I told you about, uh, okay, now, so with these positive things, okay, the development, so that happens. So as I told you that when these different networks, they come in sync with each other, and when they exert its beneficial effects down, right, with lot of hormonal influence like autonomic influence and all those things, this also has an influence even at the cellular level. So when it comes to the cellular level, right, it is called as even it known to have effect on telomerase activity, where that is an enzyme that is present in the cell which determines the age of the cell, right? So when you have a positive effect and positive cognition, and when you have a perceived control of your emotion, that has a positive influence even at the cellular level, even at the telomerase level also. So this is how actually now the meditation is gaining more importance even to the, say, conditions which was considered to be very detrimental, like oncological conditions, cancerous conditions, where where this telomere activity plays a very very important role. Now, when coming back to sleep, which I suggested, or which I mentioned, that we know that sleep is one important thing that plays very important role, I mean, in all our life. But one thing is that with our aging, one thing that always reduces is our slow wave sleep or the deep sleep state. Now, why this deep sleep is very important is, for the generation of deep sleep, two important systems in the brain, they have to work in synchrony with each other, right? This is called as thalamocortical oscillations, thalamus and the cortex. When they don't, when the communication between these two is impaired with aging or any other disease condition, my deep sleep comes down. When a deep sleep comes down, when a person gets up, he doesn't feel very fresh. This is from neuroscience perspective. But the psychological perspective also, a lot of disturbance when we don't have that skill to regulate our day-to-day emotions, right? That also disturbs sleep. Now, so we have uh, carried out the study, and it has shown that Vipassana meditators, even at the age of say 65 to 70 years, they have retained that slow wave sleep like that of an young adult. Now, what is the meaning of that? The meaning is very simple, that their two important systems, the thalamus and the cortical oscillations, even at the age of 60 or 70, right, it is working like that of a younger uh, uh, having it has that capability to generate slow waves. So therefore they spend more time even in the slow wave sleep, not only generate. And what is the advantage of having slow wave sleep? Slow wave sleep has its own many functions, including that of a memory consolidation. So whatever we learn in our day-to-day activity, it has to go to a short-term memory to long-term memory. It happens during deep sleep. So deep sleep is very important for consolidation of memory. That is very, very important. And also for the repair mechanism, and also for the synaptic pruning, or uh, for the clearance of all the waste products that have been accumulated in the brain during our day activity. All those things, it happens in during deep sleep. So meditators have could able to retain their deep sleep even with that of a old age. How this is going to happen? Because it can bring about a lot of changes in the hormones, right? So one important hormone that bring about changes called as DHEA. So DHEA is an anti-aging hormone, anti-stress hormone, which is being shown to be very, very high even in meditators. So this level of DHEA and the slow wave sleep has known to be very much correlated, with each other. The other thing also that we explored is to try to understand how the sleeping brain in meditators, they process certain information. So so we have seen that even during sleep, right, whenever a stimulus is given uh, to a meditator, the processing of that particular stimuli as an auditory stimuli is much more higher, right, in meditator compared to that of a non-meditator. But how do we interpret it from the, say, Buddhist philosophy or the psychology side? I have no any clue about this. So does it mean that meditator's mind is aware of the surroundings, but still the person is sleeping, and he could able to process the information that is, okay, that is given to the brain? So we have no clue about this. So this is one thing that we are trying to explore. Not only this, when this processing of information during sleep, especially even deep sleep, it has been processed in meditator's brain, right, the different areas, they start interacting with each other. Two important thing is, as I told you, DMA network and also that of a insula. Yeah, right, right. Yeah, yeah, okay. Now, see, in meditators, what we did is we just gave an auditory stimulus. Okay, when a person is sleeping, he's a meditator. He is sleeping. He's in deep sleep. What is our notion of deep sleep? Our notion of deep sleep is, huh? Our notion of deep sleep is, okay, no information is processed in the brain. Huh? No, it's not lucid dreaming. It is not lucid dreaming, and we gave an auditory stimuli. No, this is during sleep. This is not during meditation. A meditator is sleeping. Yes. So, so this is the meditators, the way the brain is interacts to a auditory stimuli, and this is a non-meditators one. It means that whatever the auditory stimulation that is given, okay, during deep sleep in meditators, it is processed in the brain, okay, more efficiently than compared to non-meditator. I think we can take the questions probably later, definitely, in the interest of time. And this is associated with certain areas of the brain, that they interact with each other. So that is to say that the effect of meditation with attention regulation and the emotion regulation and the skill that is acquired by the meditator, that particular influence the brain, it networks not only during wake, during cognition and emotion also, but it also influences the way the brain works during sleep. So this is just now. So yeah, so this is what how the auditory stimulus is perceived, and which are the areas that will be involved when this auditory stimulation is given is what, okay, we have mapped over here, right? So we have two important uh, the mapping that happens with the DMN and also to the insula, right, where it is mapped, or the activity is more pronounced in meditators, right, when compared to controls. So this is what it is shown, okay, in this topo map, right? But what is the meaning of this? We have no idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take the questions at the end of all the papers. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Now I would like to invite Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh ji. He is going to make a presentation on mindfulness meditation in the Theravada tradition. I think he has also been introduced, so I don't need to repeat.
He has not introduced.
He hasn't? No? Okay.
Do you show the presentation?
No. Okay, I'm sorry, sir. Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh started his academic career as an assistant professor in the Department of Buddhist Studies, University of Delhi, after completing MPhil and PhD in the same department and from the same university. In September 2010, he was appointed Assistant Professor, Department of Pali, Nava Nalanda, Mahavira, Nalanda, Bihar, a deemed university under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. In November 2020, he became professor in the Department of Buddhist Studies, Nava Nalanda, Mahavira Nalanda. Currently, he is Dean Faculty of Buddhist Studies and the head of the Department of Buddhist Studies, Nava Nalanda, Mahavira Nalanda. In pursuance of his research, he has presented a number of papers in various seminars and conferences held from time to time in India and abroad. He has many published articles and books to his credit. In order to broaden his academic horizon and expand insightful paradigms, Professor Rana has done fieldwork at different archaeological sites in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Pakistan, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, China, etc., in search of tangible as well as intangible Buddhist heritage. In 2015, Professor Rana was sent to Medan and Jakarta as expert of Buddhism during the Buddha Charika exhibition organized by Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Embassy of India in Jakarta, and Navanalanda Mahavira. Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh has also been associated as a member with various professional academic bodies of eminence such as SSEASR, ICAPS, ISPS, IOC, IHC, IPC, BLIA, etc. So I request you to make your presentation.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. But I have only one introduction, that I am a student of alphabets of Buddhism. From 1990, I am just learning Buddhism, and as a conclusion I can say that I have learned only alphabet. Even I have learned alphabet or not, it's also a very big question. And so first of all I salute the Buddha, Namo Tiratnaya, Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, respected Gesela, for organizing such a wonderful event, a dialogue between experiential Dhamma and experimental Dhamma, because according to Buddhism, particularly the Theravada Buddhism, all phenomena are Dhamma. The most scientific statement issued by Buddha, because this session is dedicated to Satipatthana, 4 techniques of meditation, mindfulness meditation. So, why mindfulness meditation? The first statement issued by Buddha was, Yada have patu bhavanti dhamma atapino jhayato brahmanasya athasya kankha bapayanti sabba yato pajanati sahetu dhammam. The most scientific statement issued by the Buddha on this earth, when a mendicant meditator meditates, the nature of Dhamma is clear to him. How the nature of Dhamma is clear to him? Because he knows the Sahetu Dhamma, the conditionality of the world. Everything is conditional. And it can be analyzed through mathematical language, neuroscientific language, and humanistic, the disciplines of humanities. And another statement was issued by his disciple, chief disciple, Mahasravak, Sariputta, Asajji, Ashwajit, one of the 5 disciples, the 5 primary disciples of the Buddha. Ye dhamma hetu pahva, tesang hetu tathagato ah, tesang cha yo nirodho, evam vadi mahasamnoti. The whole world is, everything is product of hetus, roots. And Buddha has explained the hetu. If you remove the hetu, with the cessation of hetu, the problems is solved. So this is the second statement, second scientific statement, and this is the mother of womb of all sciences. And the third statement, Buddha himself issued, Yo paticca samuppadang janati so dhammang janati. The dependent origination, the conditionality. So through these statements, the conditionality of the world have been explained. And to know the conditionality, these mindfulness techniques, the meditational techniques, the meditational practices have been established in the world. And friends, Buddha has given methodology. You might be knowing, you are from different disciplines, the research methodology has been established in modern time. But the Buddha in 5th century BC or 6th century BC, he has established a study methodology and research methodology and life methodology as well. So, what is the achievement of 21st century in studies? The experiential phenomena can be translated into experimental results. Through experiment, we can judge our experience as has been done by the NIMHANS and Professor Ravindra's center. I am a regular visitor of his center to learn the scientific interpretation and scientific analysis of Buddha Dhamma. So I learn a lot of things, and this is the era of experiment of Dhammas in laboratories. So, friends, and fortunately, because of my previous karma, I belong to Nalanda tradition. I am a student of Nalanda tradition and I am the servant of Nalanda tradition. So, and what was the Nalanda tradition? Nalanda tradition was to teach, to do research for the well-being of the whole world, for the well-being of every sentient being of the world, not to create virus like corona, not to create bomb like atom bomb, but dedicate our life, dedicate our energy, dedicate our study, dedicate our research to the well-being of humanity. Friends, so in nowadays a very big question arises by, this is raised by the meditators and the students of Buddhist philosophy, that is pragya aparadh. What is pragya aparadh? Don't translate aparadh in crime. Here aparadh means not the crime. Pragya aparadh means ignorance. What is ignorance? Not understanding what we are. And the whole life Buddha tried to explain, and he got success in explaining what we are. And we have archaeological proofs that more than 400 learning centers were concentrated around Magad, and equal number was southern part of Ganges and northern, equal numbers were in northern part of Ganges. In Sravasti and everywhere the centers were for giving knowledge to what we are. So nowadays again the age of darkness came, and because of the age of darkness we are doing so many destructive things. Friends, so Buddha gave method how to know ourselves, and this is we can understand through subtle sensations. Our personality is bundle of sensations, because in brain we have neurons, cortex, as here our previous speaker has explained, but our body is made of, according to Buddhism, this is not my statement and this is not a statement of others, our body is made of millions of cells, and each and every cell has its own sensation. And through meditation, Buddha has established these 4 pillars. I will not name again, this is the last time when I am explaining the 4 pillars, that is Kamanupassana, introspection of Kayanupassana, introspection of body, Vedananupassana, introspection of feeling, Chittanupassana, introspection of consciousness, and Dhammanupassana, introspection of phenomena or ideas, whatever you perceive. So these 4 pillars are always dominant when you try to know yourself, try to understand yourself. So the primary thing, the primary method given by Buddha was to know the sensation, understanding subtle sensations. Chul Vedana. This is very important. Sensibility and understanding is part of, and this sensation, understanding sensation is part of our tradition knowledge system, because Buddha always says, Etan Buddhan Sasanam. Before me, there were many Buddhas, those who are preaching the same things. We are repeating again and again. So, this is a part of our knowledge system, and through these four pillars, what I have discussed, these four: introspection of body, feeling, consciousness, and phenomena, we attain supreme sensibility, Ananta Vijnana. Ananta Vijnana will show your real personality, what you are. Through one physical structure to the infinite, your journey from limited structure to the infinite. And this is possible because of this fourfold meditation. Ananta Vijnana and Appamaya, boundless sensation. These fourfold meditation creates boundless sensation. Appamaya, there is no limit of the sensation up to the Ananta Vijnana. And now, you know, the Buddha, what is the achievement of, what is the enlightenment? How you will explain the enlightenment of the Buddha? According to meditators, the enlightenment of Buddha is boundless dwelling. This is beyond the boundary. And in Brahma Vedaniya Sutta, it has been explained in Pali. Brahma is not the God. Brahma means the ultimate Vedana, the boundless Vedana. And friends, then Agama never try to just limit the Buddha Vachan into one language, because our researchers are just expanding, explaining, and experiencing the Buddha Vachan in different way according to, because of space and time. These two dimensions are very important. So, with the help of understanding Agam and Nikaya, Pariyatti, Patipatti and Pativedhan, Pariyatti, Patipatti and Pativedhan of Agam, Nikaya, the Buddha Vachana. Buddha Vachan in all languages, in all literatures. So, it creates deep panya, gambhir panya, because of deep samadhi. Deep samadhi creates the wisdom, the deeper wisdom, and vipassana samadhi is directly associated with Brahma Vihar. There is different permutation and combination of understanding Buddha Vachan. So, vipassana and its relation with Brahma Vihar. Maitri, friendliness, compassion, karuna, mudita, joy, and equanimity. And see, this Brahma, the concept of Brahma Vihar will make you limitless. And lack of Brahma Vihar will create a lot of problem in the world. Different types of problems. So, the Vipassana Samadhi is directly associated with this Brahma Vihar. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita and Upekha. Another thing is, with the help of these four techniques of meditation, we meditate on, we are free from akusal chittaj, immoral consciousness. When we take help, when we enter into the house based on these four pillars, introspection of body, feeling, consciousness and dhamma, when we enter into this system, then the akusal dhammas are automatically removed. And when akusal dhammas are removed, then the half of the problem is solved. Because the Aswajit, in his statement, Sahetu Dhamman, 6 Sahetu, can you give me 2, 3, 4 minutes more? So, this is totally based on meditation, pariyatti, patipatti. I don't know how much pativedhan I got. So, I am just trying to. Then, this Brahma Vihar, so immoral consciousness has already removed the immoral factors from our mind, and then the other things arises. Without sati, the pragya cannot arise, and without pragya we cannot understand the thing, understand the phenomena, and then there is contradictory Vedana, because Vedana controls our personality. Sukhad Vedana, Dukhad Vedana, pleasant mental feeling, unpleasant mental feeling and neutral feeling, it controls our personality. And how we control our Vedana? We control our Vedana because of these four factors of meditation, and because of these four factors of meditation, we control our contradictory Vedana, contradictory emotions, contradictory feelings. Contradictory feelings means Sukha Vedana and Dukha Vedana. Both are dominant in our personality. How Sukha Vedana can dominate, how Dukha Vedana can dominate, this is a matter of study and practice. But because of these four pillars, the contradictory Vedana is removed, and then we feel only the pleasant body sensation. Another factor is Saddha and Indriya. Saddha is also Indriya and Bala. One is active part, one is resultant part. Saddha Bal, Sati Bal, Samadhi Bal, like this, and Saddha Indriya, Sati Indriya, Samadhi Indriya, like this. So, and these four things are directly related with the 7 factors of enlightenment, that is Sati, mindfulness, Dhamma Vichay, Virya, Piti, Pasaddhi, Samadhi and Upekha. So these are the factors of enlightenment, and with the practice of these 7 factors, you are in position to attain the ultimate reality. So, and I am coming to the last point, that is, the first one is Kayanupassana, introspection of body. And introspection of body, Kaya Gata Sutta, when we study, because of this Kayanupassana, Buddha says that we attain 4 right efforts, 4 basic powers, 5 indriyas, balas, 7 bhujang, like this. And then he says, Buddha himself says that after getting Kayanupassana, then we conquers displeasureness, dukkha, mental dukkha, fear, restraint, cold and heat, and he can attain at will the four jhanas. Whenever you want, the four jhan, the first jhan, second jhan, third jhan, and fourth jhan, time is over. Otherwise, I would have explained the four jhanas, the five factors, vitak, vichar, piti, sukh, ekagrata. These are the five factors of jhan according to Pali tradition. So, Buddha says that whenever the meditator wants, the jhanas can arise if you are perfect in kayanupassana and vedananupassana. Then vedananupassana is the result on the basis of kayanupassana. When you are perfect in kayanupassana, then vedananupassana can arise and you will examine the feelings, whether in your personality which Vedana is dominant. If Sukha Vedana is dominant, then you have to enter into the Upekha Vedana. And with this Upekha Vedana, so many negative factors from your personality will automatically removed. In this way, friend, these four pillars are the basics of methodology of understanding human personality and practicing vipassana dhyan in Buddhism. In Subh Sutta, I am just the complete structure of Pali Tripitak is based on these certain things, certain methodology, certain points have been given to understand the Theravada scriptures, and then you will enter into the Sanskrit scriptures and then Tibetan scriptures. This is a chain link between each other. So, in Subh Sutta and Tevijya Sutta, at the end Buddha concludes that because of the sati, with the help of sati, you can understand Sila, then you can understand Samadhi, and then you can understand Pragya, wisdom. Without sati, Pragya is not fruitful, according to Theravada Buddhism. And so, friends, this
Sir,
is...
can you conclude, please?
Yeah, within few seconds. So, this is the conclusion that how Buddha issued first statement, the conditionality to know the conditionality of the world, to know the conditionality of the personality, to know the conditionality of the thought, and to know the conditionality of the action, and to know, to understand, and to control your mind, your personality. These four pillars have been given, and these methodologies have been provided by the Buddha. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request the Venerable Geshe Thapke to make his presentation on the effects of analytical meditation on human condition from a Buddhist perspective. Venerable Geshe Thapke was born in Pempo, north of Lhasa, became a monk at the age of 10 at Sera Monastery in Tibet. He came to India in 1997 and joined Seraje Monastery in South India. Since then, he has been studying Buddhist philosophy for more than 20 years. He has done his Geshe Lampa degree in 2018 and Narampa at Gyuto Monastery in 2019. In addition to that, Geshe Thapke has been studying science since 2005, including the Tenzin Gyatso Scholars Program from 2010 to 2013, to study college-level science at Emory University at Atlanta in USA. He has been teaching Introduction to Physics and Philosophy Science to fellow monks at Seraje Monastery and working as a member of the core team of researchers investigating the impacts of monastic debate and analytical meditation on the brain. Currently, he is the director of Serajay Modern Education Department and a residential teacher of the monastery. So please make your presentation.
Thank you very much for your kindly introduction. And it's been a great honor to be here to learning with lots of giant professors and scholars. So I'm really great thankful for the Tibet House giving me opportunity to great learning experience. So yeah. I think I'm going to, there's a recently, I met one of the Western professors that's often visit to the Tibetan monasteries and various institutions. He was saying is whenever the Tibetans giving the speeches, they kept the point almost at the last. And then sometimes you don't find time, then you have to skip it. So that's why I need to say my team at the before, unless there may be not enough time. So my point is what I'm really trying to say, this is choosing analytical meditation. Actually, analytical meditation is very, very umbrella term. There have many types of analytical meditation. What I'm really trying to say, especially there's maybe some other people who are going to more research and especially scientific research. You don't have to stick to the always mindfulness, and you have to, there's many types of the mind training and analytical meditations in Buddhist traditions. So you can start to search on that. That is one thing I'm going to say. A second thing is why I'm choosing analytical meditation, my topics. As Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula mentioned, this is the age of the internet time. You can see social media time, maybe. There's so many misinformation going. So how can we do that? There's only way have to analyze this, investigate whether that's true or not. So that's why analytical meditation is such an important time. So that's my at the beginning of point. Okay. Okay, maybe I use this. So in Buddhist tradition, they have two kinds of meditation. The stabilizing meditation, more like, for example, of single point meditation of the mindfulness, and then they have analytical meditations. What the different is the stabilizing meditations comes on the mind, on focus on the single object, while it's the analytical meditations change the mind by deliberately cultivating wisdom or logic. So what is the analytical meditation? Again, analytical meditation, what I mentioned, very umbrella term. There have a lots of, different analytical meditations. One could be like that analytical meditation can be defined as using effort and reason on thought and image and emotion to gradually stay to our mind toward the beneficial habit. And another says definition, analytical meditation involves investigating a subject with a reflection and reason in order to integrate to the meaning of Dharma and develop virtuous qualities. This is more like spiritual point. So this is kind of analytical meditation that you can too easily to apply to very, very simple psychological aspect. His Holiness giving example. So when sometimes we get attachment, we can see completely 100% very attractive. And whereas when we get sometimes anger arise, we can see object 100% unattractive. This is obviously wrong, so we need to investigate mind. So there's one famous kind of website says, this is what I really trying to point again. Analytical meditation may not be as well known as research as other forms of this practice, but it attempts to have made quite an impression on the Dalai Lama and other Tibetan Buddhists. So this is the kind of what I'm trying to say. Okay. So then the point is, His Holiness says, one unique thing about the Nalanda tradition is that we extensively use a logical approach The single-pointed meditation is good, but it's even better to do analytical meditation, engage in the discussion, in debate. That's the his mean. So this is I'm trying to, it's very long, but where you apply to single-pointed meditation, where you apply stabilizing meditation, that's very, very detailed. It mentioned the great, global foundations, Lama Tsongkhapa, and the text is great tracer on the stage of path. Even that I cannot pronounce very well. Usually we call Lamrim very easy one. So the question is, if as you say there are two types of meditation, this is directly quote from the Lamrim, a meditation and non-analytical stabilizing meditation. What kind of practice involve analytical meditation and what kind of involves stabilizing meditation? Reply, I will explain this to the analytical meditation is necessary for the meditation such as those on faith in the teacher, the great importance of the difficulty to obtaining leisure, opportunity, death, and impermanent karma, it is effect to the fault of secular existence, so on and so forth. I couldn't read all of this. But what really trying to emphasize is there's a lot of spiritual practice and also what was a circular point of practice. Why reason it to analytical meditations? In order to generate, for example, in Buddhist case, is faith. The faith is not just blind faith. You need to be logical based of sense of faith, which is more stable, more unshakable. That's why important to he mentioned. They have another mention, for example, if you lack or are deficient in such analytical meditation, then you will not be developed standless wisdom. See here. And the previous level of path, if you developed a wisdom, it will not be increased gradually. So see, if you really need to deeper to the especially spiritual path, you need to be great analytical meditation in order to get to the achievement. So why Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, because of in Tibetan these traditions all comes from origin of Nalanda masters. So here's the Shantideva's, Shantideva's great textbook we call like the guide to the Bodhisattva way of the life. So there's a lot of psychological kind of method to using how to overcome anger, how to overcome all the laxity or excitement, all this, all the chapters. The beginning of the chapter, and then he says, all of the practice were taught by the might one for sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate to the wisdom. So see, in order to generate wisdom, you need to be analytical meditation. So that's why what I'm repeatedly trying to point out why important of the analytical meditation. Here's again the Nagarjuna's very profound to why important of the analytical meditation. Let's just see easy examples. In the previous, the professor mentioned ignorance as the root of cause. So what is the fundamental root of the ignorance is mental elaboration. Grasping inherently existence, every phenomena. That's the fundamental root. And that's why produce conceptual misperception, then all the mental affliction comes, then some create the samsaric karmic, that's where all suffering comes. In order to get rid of this all, you have to go back. Analytical meditation, especially for the emptiness. That's why the stopped to the elaboration, and then disease, afflictions, negative emotions. That's why achieve the nirvana. That's the simple kind of logic. So here's I'm going to more like a scientific perspective. So the recently some of the starting to the scientific approach of the analytical meditation. There's a very bold statement says, new studies suggest meditation or emptiness might be better than mindfulness. This is very bold statement. You all know many of the professors may not agree. And then some of suggestions say this is maybe wrong suggestion. Maybe they are comparing to the sun and sea. that's, regarding the different level of their, working beneficial. But some of the, scientific studies now coming. I'm really glad that although this is a bold statement, but so we need to another analytical meditation on this, the statement. So what I'm trying to give example, how do we do on the research on the analytical meditation? That's I have been done working with some of my colleagues, Western scientists, on other my colleagues of this time. So what we did is we are kind of trying to starting to the research on the analytical meditation, especially we considering Buddhist debate, monastery debate. So which is if you do well, this is also we count good analytical meditation. What is the monastery debate? To the practice in monastery debate, especially group school from age 40 to 35, that's why I graduate, become called the Geshe Haramba, because I studied that. The complement on the memorizing philosophical texts and then debate them to increase understanding. So the practice duration is approximately 5 hours a day in Tibetan monastery. So interaction in between one or two or many challenger or depender or sometimes group debate, you can see the picture where they are doing. So this is what I mean to the monastery debate. So the question is, what effect does that have to the mind, to the brain? This is the scientific questions. We were initially 4 things trying to look at. So if this count to the meditation, you need to be some quality of meditation. At least as this to debate can increase of the attention. That's the big thing. Another thing is, does this affect on the working memory, or scientific terminology sometimes called the short-term memory? Because you need to be memorization of what the depender says, what the challenger says, all these things. See, this way I all talk to my already starting. Okay, anyway, so this is the, so probably I'm going to say some of this. So see how this did. Our colleagues of the scientists brought lots of equipment from the modern technology called the EEG. That's just monitoring basically while you are debating, and then that's using to basically to measuring to the electric signals. So that's the current modern technique, one of the. So it's quite hard because of the usually when you're using EEG, all these things very sitting. The monastery debate is very physical activation going on, and then they have a lot of special the equipment is you have to need to fix. So that's why what you see the one of the challengers he carrying to the bag, put inside the meters into there, and we need to make sure to that's it. You need to be balanced. And the one thing is you want to make sure don't disturb to that debate follows. And the other thing is to make, that if you give the lots of free as usually we give, then all the electors will maybe just to hang around. So that's why you see. But anyway, we have done a couple things. One thing is we have done during the debate, they have a disagreement, agreements. We can measure to there's brain synchronization, whether that's happened or not, when is the most come, all these things. So I just giving just kind of, brave or just advertising basically. So debate may be turning attentions. There's also a technique that's come certain area, they call the frontal midland theta wave or something, which is usually considered when this goes a little bit higher, then attention observing is much more happening. That exactly we are trying to find is. So as you can see, we are comparing to the novice monks who are just beginning of this debate, and also we are taking to experienced monks to comparing when they're debating, which is more like this kind of signal produce, all these things. So we have found something result like this. And then they have a debate, usually have two categories, like logic debate and accounting debate. As you can see, the green, especially the green part, that means experienced monks, when they're debating counting, the midland frontal theta increase much more while they're debating. So, okay, almost I need to conclusion. So this preliminary data suggests debating many improved ability to pay attention to situation and ignoring distracting stimulus decrease basically. So that's you see the quality of meditation. So that's why we call this is also type of meditations. So one thing here that I really try to point out is there's also the analytical type of compassion meditations. That especially Lama Tsongkhapa Lamrim text says, if you really need to order to genuine companion, you need to be analytical meditation on their tools. So you can see here's the lots of the, I think the early Western study, lots of them mixing during the empathy and the compassion. That's where sometimes the people who are practiced, they think compassion really well, especially people who working in hospital in those things, they can see all many sufferings and then they're emotionally very drained and then they're stuck there. So that's why they're sometimes avoiding to compassion meditation. But really that's later they know, now they know that's really the empathy. Some even call the compassion fatigues, which is not really compassion fatigue. This is just empathy fatigue. So compassion, now they are found to differentiate empathy and the compassions. Compassion has to do more activation, which is more inspirational comes. That's where if you really practice to the compassion, genuine compassion, you never get stuck there. So those things. So one thing I'm really trying to say is the future we can do like this we are doing right now, the kind of analytical meditation. We can not only to the attention, we can see the emotional regulation, we can see the working memory, we can see maybe we can try to some of the application of the education, even in a very circular way. So like mindfulness, we know they have a lot of study done and now they have a lot of application, even business. Of course, analytical meditation have a lot of capacity we can try to applicate. That's what I'm trying to say. So another thing is I really want to, now that the monist debate so far happening only Tibetan languages. And then the lots of scientists coming, even they want to study, they need to speak or they need to translation, how to debate, what the topic they debate. What now we are trying to do is the debate into English, then they can see more directly. That's why our monastery also study, just finished to the first the workshop of Nalanda debate school in English is just first year is just finished yesterday. So those who are really want to join, and you're welcome to the next year maybe, or online. They have my colleague or friend of mine who are really working on that to online to teaching. And if you really wanted to experience, then you can come to monastery working with them. So that's that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we can have the QA session now. Maybe I can just give my comments before we begin. So my question for Dr. Ravindra Nagendra is, so what is the role of intentionality in bringing about change in the brain? And how do you motivate the sufferers? Okay, people who are suffering, the sufferers, in bringing about, the change in your mind. Number one. And for Professor Rana, my question is, sir, knowing is very different from being. How do you resolve that contradiction? How does it translate into being? And sir, for you, I would like to know a little bit more about role of gender and age in terms of the meditational practices, the impact on both memory and attention, let's say on children, on adults, on old people, and in terms of male females, and how it's reflected in the brain patterns as well. Thank you. You want to take more questions and then you can respond?
Yeah.
Shall, yes.
Actually, at the outset, I'm a physicist. At the outset, I must thank Geshe-la for organizing this conference, because it's a very big challenging aspect of bringing the two disciplines together. To Professor Nagendra, actually, I don't know whether you are addressed at Professor Ravindra or Nagendra. I would call you Ravindra because the slide shows you that Ravindra. So Professor Ravindra, very impressive presentation that you made. I wanted to know, as I had been asking about it during your lecture also, that Yoga Nidra, which is a very important practice in Patanjali Yoga Shastra, and we do it, Yoga Nidra brings in tremendous calmness into the mind, and then when you go to sleep, it's beautiful. And has any experiment been done or study been done on Yoga Nidra, and what is the impact of Yoga Nidra on the mind? That is one question. The other, which is a very general question, and it's to the whole panel here, is that there is a saying that without knowledge, maybe especially to Professor Rana, he gave a lot of information and statements of the Venerable Lord Buddha. For a common man, for an ordinary person who is doing meditation, is it all necessary to know, or just sit down and close the eyes and breathe and try to experience? So between the two, if the mind starts wandering, it will wander too much into the information. There is a saying that
So please try and be brief.
I'm trying to be brief, Professor, because you have asked 3-4 questions. You have left very little
But
time
I was
for
very
us.
brief.
I'm trying, I have to build up the question. The point is, they say that there is a saying that the knowledge makes you free. We are living in an age where knowledge is complicating. The knowledge is confusing the mind. The internet, the age of internet, which everybody has been telling about. What do you do with this information explosion? It is not knowledge, it is information. What do you do, and how do you subside it in the meditation? So I have 3 questions. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you.
Dr. Nagendra, first I want to appreciate the excellent presentation you gave us. May I have the scientific reference, because I would like to read it very deeply. I am a medical doctor too. So if you could just later give the medical reference where one could read it.
Here's another, yeah. Just one second.
Namo Buddhaya, Tashi Delek. Thank you for this wonderful conference that you've gathered. My first question is to Dr. Ravindra ji. Sir, please give your insight on nightmares and broken sleep. Yeah, like in the pandemic, it's become very common. And प्रोफेसर पुरुषोत्तम जी, बहुत अच्छा आपने बोला. आप हमें थोड़ा सा बताइए कि जैसे इन्होंने योग निद्र बोला, हमारे हिंदू शास्त्र में काल रात्रि पूजा की जाती है और बोला जाता है कि आप रात को सोने के पहले सिर्फ वो 3 पन्ने पढ़े तो आपकी नींद, निद्रा, माँ प्रसन्न होती है, बहुत सब ठीक होता है. तो थोड़ा सिमिलैरिटी अगर हिंदू बुद्धिस्ट में आप हमें बता पाएँ. एंड लामा जी, आपका बहुत अच्छा था प्रेजेंटेशन. हाउ कैन अ lay person know the difference between stabilizing and analytical? Because again, from a Hindu origin, Stabilizing, we call it tratak. We meditate on a candle or one flame. And analytical is more like what Sir said, yog nidra and different forms of meditation on Krishna. So if you can highlight that. Thank you.
One last question here now.
Thank you very much. First, I'll just make one brief comment. I mean, when we are talking about, for example, samatha and vipassana meditation, actually these are the modern terms. I mean, what we say is shamatha bhavana and vipassana bhavana in the tradition, and this simply means developing the stability or calmness, serenity, and developing the insight, a particular viewpoint or lens of looking at the world. Now, with this, my question to Ravindra ji is that he talked about this meditative meditating group and non-meditating group. Since we are talking about analytical in meditation, what kind of meditation did those people follow? I mean, are they following like different meditation techniques, or are you taking people who are just doing one type of meditation? And is it a analytical meditation or the serenity meditation? Because when you just say vipassana, I mean, and focusing on breath, if you're just focusing on breath, that does not become vipassana. In fact, that becomes a serenity meditation because you're fixing your mind on one object. Whereas there's no analysis involved therein. So vipassana is a different take. I mean, I think these terms are now in modern time are used a bit confusingly, in my opinion. So can you please enlighten? Thank you.
Thank you. I think let's have the responses now.
Now, the first question by the madam was, how do we account for the intentionality in the research paradigm whenever meditators is? Of course, that is a challenge. So, but one that is emerging at this point of time, we call what is a predictive processing that is there, where generally, the brain predicts according to the intention or the modality that the person has. But how actually that we can really bring that into a framework of the building up an empirical evidence is a bit challenging. That is there, number one. And so it's about yoga nidra. Of course, so there are studies now that are emerging on the yoga nidra, because yoga nidra is about your voluntarily suggestion to relax both your soma and mind, and also with that of an emotion that is there. Now this even though a progressive muscle relaxation is a component of yoga nidra, but yoga nidra is much more deeper than the PMR, that is progressive muscle relaxation. Now, so the studies of yoga nidra have shown to be improvement, especially with insomnia patients who have difficulty in either to initiate the sleep or to maintenance of sleep. Yoga nidra is known to be very, very effective. The other important thing why this yoga nidra from the therapeutic perspective is very important, and also the other thing that they mentioned about the pre-sleep certain cultural practices that we have. One of the important thing that disturb the sleep we call as pre-sleep cognition. See, the cognitive activity that happens in one's mind before going to bed, right? Generally, that is the most thing that disturbs the sleep. So, see, for everything there is a preparation. So if you want to go to a function, no, we prepare ourselves to go to a function. We just don't go in a Bermuda or a t-shirt for any function nowadays, right? So similarly, when you person wants to go to a good sleep state, there is a preparation for a person to get into a sleep state. So this we call it as sleep hygiene practices. So even though now the medical fraternity has given certain sleep hygiene practices, so most of if you look at the list of the sleep hygiene practices, it is culturally embedded in our practice daily. Say a simple example. One of the thing about the sleep hygiene practices is to say half an hour, okay, before going to sleep, right? So the thing is, you say that you calm down your mind and you relax. That is there in our cultural practice. The other in sleep hygiene practices that is said in terms in the sleep medicine at this point of time is to wash your, say, feet and hand before going to sleep in the warm water. It is there in our cultural practice. Even we advocate even to have a shower also, a warm water shower before going to sleep. And see, it has a basis why we have to do all these things. Other important sleep hygiene practice today we tell is to have a banana and a glass of milk before going to sleep, and which is there in our cultural practice, right? So because of tryptophan, serotonin, so that can induce. And apart from that, of course, we have certain added few other things. Okay, you have to shut down your mobile, laptops, all the gadgets, okay, half an hour before going to sleep. Okay, all those things are there. So as far as this yoga nidra as a thing to get into deep sleep is as a sleep hygiene practices, yes, it is definitely is going to helpful. It will be very, very helpful. That is one. And the references, definitely I'll share the references with the man. And when it comes to the nightmare and the broken sleep, yes, nightmare, and of course it it has been much more in the during the uh, in what context is your question? In terms of yoga nidra? Yeah, definitely. No, I cannot hear you clearly.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. So I just wanted to ask you how this yoga nidra helps overcoming like obsessions, overthinking, like no series and ADHD, like issues, psychological issues.
Yeah.
So could you just elaborate on that? Thank you.
See, for any risk or the neuropsychiatric conditions, first and the foremost thing is to calm down the mind, whether it is whether it is an agitated mind or an obsessed mind or whatever it is, right? And also, and the same answer I would like to give to the madam's question also about how actually you motivate the sufferer's mind. The first and the foremost is that we have to calm down. There are many ways to calm down, and when we have to act at different levels. First level is at the physical level. So therefore, if you go for the say from the yoga perspective, right, you give a lot of physical activity in terms of asana or in terms of many other things. So where you can really try to focus the mind on the physical activity, which is because it is very gross and easy to grasp for the disturbed mind, right, at the physical level, and you train that to focus on, say, on certain things. And we have to remember, as I told in my presentation, more we try to focus, the mind also becomes very, very calm and cool with the practice, right, that is there. So this is also one of the component also you have in yoga nidra. So first is what, that okay, you try to give a command to relax at every say the muscles. So you start with the toe and go to the head, and you go on, so rotating that even at the physical level. Then the important component is to calm down is of course the breath. So breath is known where we can really calm down the mind with, and we have all these deep breathing practices, so that you have to calm down the mind. So first and foremost is not to give instructions or the person to get out of that particular condition, but to prepare the mind to receive the new instructions. That is very important. How do we prepare that mind? So we work at the physical level in terms of physical activity, and at the breath level, so that his mind is calmed down, right? And when the mind calms down, at all, say it will take, say, a number of days or weeks for these practices to get the effect. Then slowly, we'll try to introduce the whatever the different component that the core component of any practice that needs to be included. So with my experience, as I told you, that we work with adolescent depression, with 2 weeks of one-to-one practice in our hospital with adolescent depression patients, they could able to at least to recognize, okay, whenever they are getting depressed or whenever they are getting agitated, and to divert their attention away from the ruminating thought. To that extent, will that bring about some positive influence? Yes, definitely it will take more time. So at what level that we are working, at first 1 week we just give them the physical activity in terms of, okay, you do Surya Namaskar, you do certain asanas, okay, because the cognition is not only about the mind, even your, say, bodily sensation is also a part of cognition. Whether you are agitated, you are depressed, or different physical thing, so it is expressed in different aspects in the body also, and body is also giving a signal of that particular mind state, right? And that particular signal is very gross and easy to grasp. So when person's mind is so dull, even he is not in a position to grasp that bodily signal of the person is anxious, or to that of or he's into depression, right? So we have to prepare that mind that he captures that body signals first, which is very gross. So for which we have to work at the body level. Then we have to go at the say breath level, then at the emotional level, imagination, and all those things. So all this comprising is your yoga nidra. Can we give yoga nidra directly to the patient? No, it's not possible. It's very difficult. Unless and until you work in these different stages and you prepare the patient to understand all these things, then you give a total as a yoga nidra as a component. Then the effect is going to come.
I think we can move to the next speaker.
I am thankful to the three persons. First of all, my chairperson, Madam has raised very good question, pertinent question, knowledge, knowing, and being. Second query was common man, if they will just enter into the knowledge and so many things, how they can meditate. Two things, two types of knowledge I am talking about today. One, the knowledge defined by logic, perception, inference, and so on and so forth. Another thing, the knowledge given by the knowledge system introduced by the Buddha. How to know the knowledge system? Buddha experimented two things. One thing, the teacher will visit to the touts, the students, disciples. Disciples will not come to the teacher. The intention was charatha vikkhave charikam. We have to move to give knowledge to the common people. And he conveyed his knowledge to the common people, what is life, what is death, what is morality, what is concentration, meditation, in most common language. And the certificate of success of Buddha is the scriptures known as Therigatha, This is the hymns, verses composed by the common people who has started knowing, who has started debating on the philosophical points, that is life, death, karma and everything. Therigatha, the common women folk, the common man in Thergatha, they have received the knowledge of Buddha through knowing process, meditated and got the ultimate position. Ultimate position means the complete purification of mind. So, this type of knowledge, the process of knowing and the common being was bridged by the Buddha through his methods. How to teach, how to make these philosophical issues accessible to the common man. And they started practicing, they started following the path of the Buddha, and they got enlightenment. There was no philosophical zigzag in their mind, there was no philosophical contradiction in their mind, everything was crystal clear. So I hope these two questions have been addressed. And the third one is Yoga Nidra and Kal Ratri Puja and everything. See, in the beginning, in one slide, we saw one meditating person, seal, that belonged to Indus Valley civilization. Means 5000 BC, the current dating. After decipherment of its script, it may go even before. So the tradition of meditation exists in India, and the initial objective of meditation is to control our negative thoughts, negative emotions, okay, through non-minding process that is called amani bhav. Mani bhav means one thought just overlap another one, some negative, some positive. Because of the thought, Vedana arises, feeling arises. Because of the feeling, sensation arises, and sensation creates so many problems in the body. And it disturbs our sleep also. So, we have to achieve the amani bhav. Amani, non-minding process. Okay? Because through our brain, this is a storehouse of all knowledge, a storehouse of all informations. One series of information is just active in our mind, another jumps. And it changes the whole process of personality. Scientifically, Professor Ravindra will explain, I am talking in a common man's language. And it disturbs everything. So you have to follow the non-minding process through Vipassana. In Vipassana, the first stage is Anapansati. And the next one is Vipassana. When you are going for 10 days meditation course, then the first 4 days you have to practice Anapan, breathing practice. Why? Because you have to be trained in controlling of our mental fickleness. Okay? And then 5th days you start actual Vipassana. Then actual Vipassana, we try to perceive, we try to examine the sensations. Okay? It's a very big process. And so Kal Ratri Puja, Vipassana and Yoga Nidra, the aim is to avoid the fickle, negative act of reaction of your brain. The informations which is in dormant condition and it becomes active through when you are relaxed. In the daytime, you have so many things, so you are busy with your current situation. Okay? But when you are sleeping, when you are going to bed, you are relaxed and many things comes in your mind, and sometimes it disturbs you, sometimes it support you. Okay? So all these process, yoga nidra and kal ratri puja and vipassana, initial vipassana, these take you to the state of amani bhav, control your emotions, control your negative vedana, and for better sleep. So,
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Thank you. May I now request Venerable to respond?
I think now that everybody's do the mindfulness for the lunch, so I don't want to take long. So, by the way, so I'll take to the first your question that say to how do we know they have so many meditations, right? So that's also we need to analytical meditation. So there's nowadays, mindfulness, all these things very mainstream. You can see almost every day is on the news and something like that. So far, my understood, there's a, I would like to, based on my understood, modern mindfulness meditation, which is two categories. One is single point meditation, that's we can easily understand, try to, focus on the one single object. Then they call the modern version of vipassana meditation, which they just trying to, trying to observe to the, as the Dr. Narendra mentioned about just observing to sensation, body or attitude, whatever. But the man call it is non-judgmental. Your third person's position. But as the Dr. Mahisha do clarification, the classical text, you can see shamatha, vipassana. Vipassana means insight, produce of the wisdom, which is much more beyond that. It's really what I'm talking about, emptiness meditation, all this more at the beginning level, especially at the beginning, judgmental. This is not good reason. That's where you have to negotiate. This one is a good reason. You have to accept it. So that's the judgmental come there. So you see the difference. What I'm trying to say, analytical meditation is involved with the judgmental and lots of reasoning to put. But don't forget, when I'm saying to analytical meditation, doesn't mean every kind of investigating like police, whatever they're doing, this is meditation. No, meditation has to be two quality, attention, and especially you try to get rid of laxity in your mind. Especially I have an argument about the meditation make sleep better, especially deep sleep better. They have a good debate because if you are really, especially in the analytical meditation, does that make really deep sleep increase? It's a very, very classical, debate questions. Maybe in the modern version, that's just simply you come down, focus on the breath. That will be just reducing your too much thought going on, too much stress, too much the event. Maybe calm down. That make good sleep. But especially to the practitioner level, that's they have a some kind of how to say reserve the doubtness. But we really need to again to research more. And that's what. So, second, the first question, our chairperson asking about what we did about the conducting research on the monastery debate. Is there any gender and age and memorization? This is the big questions. I can't hold this to the before the lunch. But we did the many monks. The senior monk, which is age between most of them is 40 to 50, but the younger novice monk aged 15 to 25. And then we did that same thing at the TCV student. Nowadays, they are also learning to the monastery debate. So we see lots of big difference in terms of just brainwaves. But we haven't yet explicitly learned to the madam asking about memory, especially working memory, they call the like, we need to be consistent. You need to be memorization, what he mentioned, the previous his premises, you have to consistent to argument. In order to that, you need to be memorization with his first statement and thesis. So this is that's why we are very curious in that whether that's increase of memory, especially nowadays. Some of the American scientists who are really expert about Alzheimer's disease, they really wanted to know the monastery elder who are, how about their memorization, how about their, the memories, when it seems like they're, even though very old monks, but still not losing the memory. So is there any something monastery learning or way of living, so they're trying to now understand to that? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now, I would like to convey my sincere appreciation and to our respected chairperson, Professor Renuka Singh, and our guest speakers for sharing their knowledge and wisdom on their respective topics for the first session. With this note, I would like to make a humble request to Mr. Ajir Vidyaji, retired IS officer of the government of India, to kindly come on stage and do the honor of presenting the souvenir and the white scarf to our chairperson and the respected speakers. Please welcome, sir. Please, sir. First, Professor Renuka Singh. I would like to request all of you to make a big round of applause. Second, we have Dr. Ravindra Nagendra ji. Dr. Ravindra Nagendra ji. And third, we have Professor Rana Purushottam Kumar Singh ji. And Venerable Geshe Thapkela. Thank you very much, Mr. Jirji. Thank you. Now, before we conclude this session, I would like to request our chairperson and the guest speaker for a quick group photo.